Grandpa was obsessed with living forever, so he went out and caught himself a snake, one that had failed to transform. Just as he was about to dunk it in liquor to brew some immortality wine, the snake suddenly morphed into a woman and started talking. "Let me go. When your grandson is born, I'll bless him with a lifetime of wealth and fortune. No disasters, no suffering." Grandpa heard it was about me, his unborn grandson, and his heart moved right then and there. Without a second thought, he let the woman go back into the mountains. At first, the whole family just laughed it off, thinking the old man had lost his mind. But the day I was born, the sky was crystal clear. Then, out of nowhere, storm clouds rolled in. Rain poured down. The river outside the village flooded instantly, rushing all the way to our doorstep, and the whole village ran for their lives. Only my mother was trapped inside, stuck in the middle of a difficult labor. While everyone was panicking, Grandpa just stood there, eyes locked on the dark sky. Then a crack of thunder, and I let out my first cry. But before anyone could celebrate, a massive boom shook the ground. A pitch-black coffin came crashing through on the floodwater straight into our backyard. A coffin at the door, 3 generations cursed. In feng shui, that's about as bad as it gets. But Grandpa didn't even flinch. He burst out laughing. "This isn't a curse, it's a blessing. The water god is sending my grandson a wife." From that day on, Grandpa went full obsessive. He spent every waking hour buried in an ancient feng shui text, studying like a madman. He moved that black coffin right into his own bedroom, and when I was 5, he bribed me with malt candy to kowtow to it, muttering the whole time, "That in there is your future wife." Then he forced me to study feng shui under him for 10 straight years. When I was 18, Grandpa was on his deathbed. He grabbed my hand, and with his last bit of strength told me 2 things. First, you must be buried in this black coffin, and people will come to steal it. Second, you must take good care of the woman inside. I agreed through tears, then immediately called my uncle over to open the coffin. We figured it'd be nothing but rotted wood and junk inside, but the moment the lid came off, everyone froze. Inside lay a woman, perfectly preserved, breathtakingly beautiful like something out of a painting. I was still staring in awe when a strange fragrance drifted out and spread across the entire village. My face dropped. This was no ordinary scent. This was corpse incense, the kind that travels for miles. Demons flee from it. Ghosts run from it. That's when I finally understood the terrifying truth behind Grandpa's second dying wish. I didn't hold anything back. I laid out Grandpa's whole deal with the snake woman. My dad shook with rage and kicked the coffin stand. My second uncle, the most level-headed of us all, was the first to pull himself together. He stared me down hard. "Xiaochen, what do we do now?" My first instinct was to burn the corpse, but then I remembered what Grandpa once said. This incense is sacred. The woman had already cultivated a demon core inside her body. I was stuck, no way forward, no way back. Grandpa spent his whole life being useless, and now he's dumping something like this on a kid. How is he supposed to survive? My uncle went dead quiet. None of us had an answer. I took a deep breath and made a bold call. "Uncle, let's move her to the abandoned house up on the back hill." My uncle's expression stayed grim, but after a long pause, he nodded. I sent the villagers home, wrapped the corpse in black cloth, and carried her on my back, all the way up to the deserted hill behind the village. I found a clean room in the old house and gently set her down on the bed. The wind on the way up had helped. The incense had faded a bit. But just as I turned to leave, a bone-chilling cold crept up my spine, like a pair of icy eyes boring into my back. Was she reanimating? I spun around, but no. She was still lying there, eyes shut, completely still. I quickly scattered some pre-prepared ash to suppress the remaining incense, then turned to bolt. But just as I reached the door, thud. A yellowed old book slid right off the woman and hit the floor. My skin crawled. I forced myself to pick it up, shoved it back under her, locked the door, and sprinted down the hill. Grandpa's dying words, already out of my head. "Whoever wants this coffin wife can have her. Not my problem." But over the next few days, Grandpa's funeral went unusually smooth. I was almost relieved, thinking maybe something had already taken her. I was dead wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. Tossing and turning, something just felt off. I finally gave in, grabbed a wooden club, and headed up to the old house in the dark. Halfway up the hill, I spotted several dark figures heading straight for the house. I ducked into the bushes and waited. When they got close, I gasped. These were no people. They were paper figures dressed in red and green burial clothes, and they were carrying a big red wedding palanquin. The curtain flew open, and out jumped a creature in a red chipao, a weasel spirit, walking upright like a man. And it spoke. "My darling, your husband has come to take you home." That lit me up. "You think just because I don't want her, you get to swoop in?" I grabbed a rock and hurled it. The weasel went down hard, but it scrambled right back up, snarling and scanning around. "Who's there? Show yourself!" The second I threw that rock, I already regretted it. Then out of nowhere, the back of my neck went cold. The weasel had vanished and reappeared right behind me, grinning in my ear. I spun and grabbed it by the throat, slamming it into the ground. It let out a shriek. then raked its claws across the back of my hand. 2 deep gashes, straight to the bone. I hissed in pain and let go. It glared at me and screamed, "You little brat! You just messed with the wrong one! I'll rip your soul out and peel your skin!" I wasn't about to bow down to this thing, but just as I moved in, its tiny green eyes flashed. Suddenly, everything spun. My head felt like lead, my legs gave out. I'd been hit with a bewitchment. Paper figures started closing in from every direction. Right as they were about to surround me, I bit down hard on my tongue. The sharp pain snapped me back. I whipped out a talisman and threw it into the crowd of paper figures. They caught fire instantly and burned to ash. A few little weasel spirits hiding inside shrieked and scattered. The big one, Weasel King, stared me down, those green eyes spinning, gearing up to hit me with another spell. I wasn't giving him the chance. I flung a talisman straight at him. He dodged fast, rolling out of the way. I could tell he was scared of the talisman, so I pulled another one and chased him down. Then he suddenly spun around, lifted his tail, and blasted a wave of rancid yellow smoke right in my face. This 100-year-old menace nearly knocked me out cold right there. My eyes were streaming. I stumbled back, gagging. The Weasel King took the opening and bolted with his crew. As he ran, he threw back a threat. "You picked the wrong fight, kid. Weasel King will make you pay." By the time I recovered, they were long gone. I pushed into the house and stared at the woman on the bed, fuming. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be out here brawling with a gang of weasel spirits," I vented, changed into clean clothes, then stared at her again. Still no idea what to do. Maybe it was the adrenaline from the fight, but I found myself lying down beside her. It was the only halfway decent place to sleep in this whole abandoned house. The second I lay down, the incense in the room surged. It turned into a warm current that flooded through my entire body. By the time I realized something was wrong, I couldn't move. My eyelids felt like concrete. And then, I heard rustling from right beside me. She was waking up. My stomach dropped. I was done for, about to get my life force drained. But then, something soft and cool pressed gently against my lips. Not biting, just a light, delicate touch. That icy cool feeling sent a wave through my chest I couldn't explain. A few seconds later, she quietly lay back down, and I drifted off to sleep. I jolted awake the next morning. First thing I did was check on her, still lying there calm and still. But when I looked closer, her body had shifted slightly outward, like she was trying to get away. I reached over and pressed my hand to her chest. After a long moment, I confirmed it. Still no heartbeat. My face went red. I felt like I'd done something wrong. Before I left, I muttered at her, "Hell." I'd barely stepped out of the old house when I felt eyes on me. A small weasel spirit had been tailing me the whole time. I ignored it, went straight home, and locked myself in my room. When I flipped open the first page of the book, my jaw dropped. This was the second volume of Grandpa's feng shui manual, the one he'd always been missing. It all clicked. Grandpa's cultivation had always been half-baked, and now I knew why. He never had this core volume. And this book wasn't originally his. He must have taken the first volume from the woman's clan years ago, and she had been holding on to the second. The content inside was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It shattered everything I thought I knew about feng shui. I couldn't fully grasp it yet, but I knew it was on another level. The next day, I grabbed a rooster from the chicken coop and headed back to the old house. That little weasel spirit was still on my tail the whole way. I smirked to myself. You can't keep a weasel away from a chicken. This corpse was nothing but trouble, and I needed to deal with the Weasel King once and for all. When I got to the old house, I slaughtered the rooster right there in the yard. I made sure to splash the hot blood everywhere. The thick iron smell hit the air fast. The little weasel's eyes went bright green with hunger. But I wasn't after the small fry. I wanted to wipe out the whole crew. I tossed the whole chicken into the pot to cook, then set up several snares around the woman's bed. Then I tore off the chicken's rear end and chucked it into the tree line like I was throwing it away. The little weasel couldn't resist. It bolted after it. The second it was gone, I set traps all around the outside of the yard, dropped a piece of half-raw chicken in each one, covered every snare with leaves. Everything was set.